Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. It was coming back from the island of Tinian to Lady. We just delivered the bomb, the Hiroshima bomb. The 1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. We didn't see the first shark for half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know how you know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. Well, we didn't know that our bomb mission had been so secret. No distress signal had been sent. They didn't even get us overdue for a week. The very first light, Chief, sharks come cruising. So we formed into tight groups, you know, kind of like you see in the pictures of the battle, like in the calendar, like the Battle of Waterloo. And the idea was, shark comes the nearest man, and he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark go away. Sometimes the shark wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark looks right into you, right into your eyes. And the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, these black eyes, like a doll's eyes. And he comes at you, doesn't seem to be living, until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white. Oh, and you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. And in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, the ocean turns red. And he'll come in and they rip you to pieces. You know, by the end of that first dawn, lost 100 men. I don't know how many sharks, maybe 1,000. I don't know how many men. The average 6 an hour. On Thursday morning, Chief, I bumped into a friend of mine, Herbie Robinson from Cleveland, baseball player, bosun's mate. Thought he was asleep. We still would have wake him up. He bobbed up and down like a kind of top. Upended. Well, he'd been bitten in half below the waist. Noon on the 5th day, Mr. Hooper, Lockheed Ventura, swung in low and he saw us. A young pilot, younger than Mr. Hooper. He swung in low and he saw us. And 3 hours later, a big fat PBY comes down and starts to pick us up. You know, that's the time I was most frightened, waiting for my turn. I'll never put on a life jacket again. So, 1,100 men went in the water, 316 came out, June 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb. Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man! At your waterlogged seaborne service. Hope you enjoyed that. That was my 3rd take at getting that right, and I probably still didn't get it right anyway. Of course, what that is one of the most famous, eerie, melancholy and haunting speeches, monologues in modern cinema. Delivered by Robert Shaw as barnacled old Captain Ahab wannabe Quint in Jaws, the seminal masterpiece of suspense, horror, terror, and devout characterization, Jaws, by Steven Spielberg. Roy Scheider as Police Chief Brody, Richard Dreyfuss as ichthyologist, that's shark expert to you and me, Matt Hooper, and of course Robert Shaw as the working class hero bullshit. The guy that survived the USS Indianapolis. This is the sequence which ushers us into pretty much the final sort of act of Jaws. You've got 3 men on a boat and a great big fish circling them. Hooper and Quint do not get along at all. Hooper is a rich boy, he's wealthy, he's a college kid, he's got money, he's got city hands, whereas Quint works for a living, sharking for a living. That's what he does. And the two of them have an obvious inbuilt class divide and hatred for each other. Pure animosity. But during that sequence, they're on the boat. It's the end of the first day. They've encountered the shark. Brody insists that a bigger boat would be necessary. And a shark, you've had a shark do this before? You know? All this kind of stuff. Quint is beginning to realise this is a bit unusual for usual sharks I hunt down. And over a few drinky poos, some food, there's some camaraderie, there's a bit of banter ensues. And unbelievably, in a really warming, touching moment, he and Hooper and Brody all bond. They bond over scars. It's a clever, clever sequence. You know, it's all done for laughs. Quint will pull a tooth out, some impairment. You want to see what impairment? Reach under my cap there and feel that. You know, knocking all them. St. Paddy's Day, Boston. And then he starts comparing scars, him and Hooper. And the brilliant bit is that Brody, Roy Scheider, can't really get into this because actually he is the misfit. It's not Hooper. Hooper and Quint really are the same sort of thing. Just two ends of the same pod. One P there, one P there. But they love the sea. They know what lives in the sea. And they know how to deal with it. They're both experts in the same sort of thing. They just have different ways of dealing with it. Whereas Brody literally is the fish out of water. He hasn't got a clue what's going on. He can't deal with things. You know, I'm going to make a phone call. Doof. Heads. Doof, doof, doof. You know. Put out the fire with you, Chief. But that's going to fall off. No, there we go. We're all right. Oh, cheers, by the way. I'm not captain, I'm just first mate. But that bonding session over scars, as I say, Brody wants to join in and he casually looks, you know, at its appendix scar and realises that's not going to compare to a thresher shark and or whatever else bitten through my wetsuit, you know. A moray eel bit right through my wetsuit. And, Mary Ellen Moffat, she broke my heart. All this kind of stuff. And then Brody again. Brody's the idiot. Brody sees a mark on Quint's arm. What's that one? What's that? Oh, it was a tattoo. I got that removed. And of course, Hooper thinks it's funny. Oh, don't tell me. Mother! And all this kind of stuff takes place. Hooper... That's the USS Indianapolis. That chokes back Hooper's laughter. You were on the Indianapolis? And Brody still thinks it's funny. He goes, what happened? Japanese submarine slammed 2 torpedoes into our side, Chief. You know, and so it begins. Now, why I'm talking about this right now and discussing, it isn't the bonding session. What I want to discuss is that speech itself. The USS Indianapolis existed. The film, with some critics, got into trouble for having based a fictional story and using a real life incident inside that. That can prove problematic sometimes because you're asking an audience to buy into this fictional story and they're quite happy to do that. When you start blending a real life incident, and especially back in 1975 when this film came out, there would be people there who perhaps had relatives who were on that ship. Certainly people who knew of that entire incident, the mission of the shark as it's known nowadays. And it could be treading on some very sensitive toes there. It works brilliantly, but the reason why it works so brilliantly is because it gives you a complete avenue directly into Quint's mindset. Quint truly is a Captain Ahab. He is obsessional. Why? He's got survivor guilt. The true story of the USS Indianapolis, no distress signal was sent because it was a cargo ship. It had no escort when it was travelling from Tinian to Leyte, having just delivered the bomb at Tinian to what was going to go on to Enola Gay. And Japan was going to get bombed out of the war. So it goes down, but it destroyed the radio equipment, so they couldn't send a distress signal. Now, a lot of the men were actually killed by injuries sustained in the actual attack. Many men died via drowning, hydrophobia. I've got a book written by a guy who did survive this, and it's harrowing reading, as you'd expect. Now, the sharks play an especially grisly element in the story, but they did not kill all of those people. You know, what happened is a lot of the guys were drinking seawater because there was no food, there was no water. That also, you know, the tropical heat, they were dehydrating, they were sunburned, they were dying in the water. Some would go mad, they had pen knives, they would attack each other. A lot of men were killed by other comrades who'd gone completely crazy. And that just brings a whole new spectrum to this saga. So, Quint, why does he come out with that story at that particular stage? He's been trying to one-up Hooper the entire journey. And he belittles, but also kind of likes Chief Brody, kind of likes him. But it's this thing about bravado and bragging. Now, I get the impression that Quint never really has, despite being a braggart and despite being full of his own spit and gumption, and loves to embroider a tale, sings his songs, his own made-up sea shanties. You know, you never really know what's true with Quint, but this is true. What he's telling you there may well be the first time he's told that story in many, many years. That's what I believe, because he realises that this shark ain't the normal shark he hunts. That's not his normal quarry. So things are different here. And in the years since the Indianapolis, he's not been a landlubber. He's been out at sea, primarily, hunting the very thing that threatened him and all his comrades during that incident. He's trying to get revenge. He wants revenge. He has, but the thing is, it's tinged by, as I said before, survivor guilt. Why did he get away with it and others didn't? You know, Herbie Robinson, you know, how did his friend from Cleveland gets bitten in half? Others die in front of him. I'll never put on a life jacket again. You notice that there are life jackets on the Orca, his fishing boat. People always go, well, if he's not going to wear one, why are they there? Well, they're there because of maritime law. You know, the guy's a maverick, but he's not a lawbreaker. You know, he's going to have these things. Plus, if he has a charter and there's people who are paying to be on board his boat, then he'll need them for them. So that's why he has them. They're not for him, because he does not put one on at all. But he has this inbuilt, almost death wish. He needs to reenact that incident, but this time to get the right outcome. I firmly believe this. Although he's totally dogged in his pursuit, he's never met a shark that's been a match of him since, you know, the Indianapolis. But he couldn't fight back then, and in all the intervening years, he's fought back. But really, he's trying to find that one shark that will sort of reset the balance, because he should have gone then. That's what he's thinking. Now, a lot of myths surround who wrote this script, who wrote the speech. You had Howard Sackler was the original scenarist. I mean, this speech is not in Peter Benchley's book, the original book of Jaws. It's not there. But Carl Gottlieb and John Milius and Steven Spielberg all thought there's got to be a reason why this larger-than-life, brawny, barnacled, old sea soak, why he's got such this passionate obsession and hatred for sharks. Why? Why would it be? And it had to be something grisly. So, who came up with the idea? Howard Sackler was he wrote an initial scenario for Jaws. A lot of his ideas were not used. But he says, well, I came up with the idea for that. I sort of briefly, I had to give a backstory to him. John Milius of Red Dawn and Conan the Barbarian, a completely gung-ho, absolute balls out, blazing, swine, a macho son of a bitch. Like Robert Shaw, he claims, and he did have definitely a part in the origination of this speech. in its genesis. He claims that in a phone call to Spielberg in the early hours of the morning, he literally delivered the speech. He wrote it down and delivered the speech to Spielberg. And then Spielberg obviously copied it down. Right, we're going to use that. Many years later, they all got together for a big, massive sort of meeting, and they were asked, all the people who were behind the scenes, because Robert Shaw had said that, no, none of these guys did that. I did it. I came up with that speech. I wanted the reason why I could inhabit that character. He's also on record of saying that the reason why he took the character on, he took the part on in the film, is because of that speech, because of that moment. So there's a bit of a difference there. If the speech was already there, and that's why you took the role, how was it you come out with it? Well, I'll explain. There's bits of truth in all of these. Howard Sackler's original scenario, there had to be a reason why Quint was such a madman, so overzealous with his hatred of sharks and his pursuit of them across the seven seas. Milius, yes, did fashion a version of that speech. Spielberg then honed and toned it. And then, of course, Robert Shaw, who was a writer and a poet, and he was playing the character. And my God, does he inhabit that character? Without a doubt, in a career which has got so many great portrayals in it, Quint is the quintessential element of his acting career. So, he says that, no, I wrote that. And if you listen or watch his performance, don't read a transcribe of the dialogue for that, because he's saying it in that sort of mangled American accent. It's a misplaced American accent. It doesn't really matter, because he's not American, but he puts on this brogue, this sort of, salty, brine-encrusted brogue, and it works a treat. But you ask any American, they go, I don't know, I can't place that. It's not from Maine, New England, Nantucket. It's not, I don't know where it's from. But does it matter? It doesn't matter. But when he's saying it, like the rest of the film, the dialogue is very realistic, very conversational. People stutter, they repeat themselves, they stammer, they talk over each other. And when someone opens up, and this is the point I'm getting to, where I say, I don't think Quint's ever discussed this before, but because he's now found, he's got a bit of bonhomie with these guys, he's bonded with them finally, with somebody, other than that little squirt he has with the bright orange cap, who carries all his stuff, and never gets a name, but he's probably one of the unsung heroes of Jaws, a bit like Ben Gardner. Ben Gardner get this? Ben Gardner didn't get it. The shark got Ben Gardner. But Quint opens up, and it's probably the way the dialogue is delivered. It's not stammered, but it's broken. It seems very ad-libbed. If someone had sat down and wrote that, it would be very clear and concise. The details would be nicely ladled on, very sort of chronicled. It would be obvious. You compared anyone else doing that scene from a written script to what Robert Shaw does, and there'd be a vast difference, and yet you would adore Robert Shaw's version over any other, of course. So, what Robert Shaw says, and well, he says he'd come up with it, but the general thing is now that, yes, Sackler came up with the idea, Milius wrote a version, Spielberg then altered it, then Robert Shaw altered it, and he fitted it into what his character would say, as only he would know. Now, on the day when they filmed this, Robert Shaw, a bit like myself, a very hardened booze hound. Yes, inside there is whiskey. You knew that. Of course you did. Just going to put this back on. This is a good version of the Quint hat from Jaws, and not a bad version of the Quint shirt. He said to Spielberg, because he actually got a bit nervous about it, because this is his big moment. Afterwards, he would say, because that scene became legendary, afterwards he would say to everybody, look, that was the moment when my character actually, I actually got a chance to act in this drama. I actually got given a chance to be somebody. He's really dressing down the rest of the film and the rest of his performance in that film, because it's all immaculate, all of it. We don't need the blackboard and, I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him, kill him for 10. You know. Every scene he's in is just superlative. It's just a masterclass. It's his defensive role. So, on the day in question, he says to Spielberg, look, can I have one drink, just one drink beforehand? Just one drink. And Spielberg goes, yeah, just one drink though, just one, mind. They had to carry him onto the set of the boat, the Orca. And by all accounts, he started off brilliantly. He gets about halfway through and then begins to go off on a tangent and starts discussing his wife and his kids, his family and all this sort of stuff. But Spielberg, being an honourable gentleman, just let him carry on, didn't shout cut, let him finish. And then just said, thanks Bob, thanks. At 3 o'clock the following morning, Robert Shaw phones Spielberg and says, oh, I'm so sorry, because he's realised what happened. I'm so sorry. Can I do it again? Please, can I do it again? Just one more time. I promise I'll get it right. Spielberg said, yeah, let's do it again. So the next morning, they roll, and he nailed it. He nailed it with that speech, that monologue, the Indianapolis. And it truly does stand the test of time in a film which is remarkable for its in-depth and realistic characterizations. You believe every single one of those people in front of that camera. Even all the townsfolk, a lot of whom are genuine townsfolk from Martha's Vineyard. Martha's Vineyard, where they filmed. It's the fictional Amity Island is Martha's Vineyard. And a lot of those people you see in the crowd scenes, you know, all the townsfolk, all the councillors and all that sort of stuff, you know, the ones who've got businesses, you know, are you going to close the beaches? Just for 24 hours? 24 hours is like 3 weeks. You want to try a lockdown, hon? Yeah, you want to try COVID-19 lockdown? 3 weeks is like 3 years, you know. But so they're all, you've got that realism permeates every scene in Jaws. Scheider is awesome. Scheider with his face and his eyes like a shark, you know, lifeless eyes, black eyes like a doll's eyes, you know. Scheider has them, and he has that strange shaped face as well. I've discussed this before, but there's certain shots where he will turn Scheider sort of side on, and him and Bruce the shark, they're twins. They are. And in a way, you've got to think that that plays a part in it. Hooper, Richard Dreyfuss, cocksure, arrogance, comes a cropper as well. Awesome. But the heart, the soul, and it's a dark heart and it's a blackened soul that runs through Jaws is Quint. And that speech, as I say, it's guilt. It's guilt on his part. He's confessing what happened and he's ashamed that he survived. A lot of critics find it, I don't know, a little bit too deep when they go in and they say it's American guilt about Hiroshima. I can get that a little bit, but I think they're really just, you know, joining the obvious dots there. It was about the Indianapolis delivered the bomb, took out Hiroshima. Japan's suffers so terribly and is taken out the war. And then America, because of the guilt after all that, you know, obviously builds them up, money, and Japan becomes a huge thing later. But no, look at when the film came out. America had just lost Vietnam. The fall of Saigon happened and America was bugging out. They were retreating from a war that, in a place where most Americans couldn't even find on a map. But also, they had no idea why their own troops were over there in the first place. Quint may be a Second World War veteran. He may even have been a Korean War veteran. We don't know. He's wearing a Korean War jacket throughout a lot of the film as well. So maybe he did pursue war afterwards. We don't know. We never get to know any of that side of things. But Vietnam, I think, features heavily in this guilt thing, this sort of self-loathing, which that speech and that characterization is all about. What do the sharks come to symbolise? What does the shark come to symbolise? The unseen threat, the threat that's out in the jungle, the threat that you can't see, the threat that blends in with all the other indigenous life under there, under the sea. So you've got to go in, and all your technology, your harpoons, your trackers, everything, you know, your shark cage, all this sort of stuff is rendered useless against a guerrilla force which is fighting back. You've invaded its territory, you don't belong there, it can destroy you at a whim. So you've got all this and America's guilt at Vietnam, you know, all the footage of, you know, the My Lai massacre, baby killers and all that kind of stuff. So I think more than the Second World War and Hiroshima, it's Vietnam that plays heavily into this haunted sort of self-loathing which Quint comes to epitomise. Oh yeah, he's a big brave bloke, but like most big brave blokes that enjoy their booze, a lot of bees here that enjoy their booze and like to boast, you know, they're pretty pathetic when it comes down to it. And I think if you took Quint off his boat, you know, he's first mate, he's captain, he's navigator, he's everything on that boat, you put him on land, take the boat away from him, he'll become impotent. I mean, it's telling that there's a sequence in a deleted scene from Jaws where he's in a cinema and it's rightfully removed. It shouldn't be in there at all. And a bit like Max Cady, Robert De Niro's Max Cady in the Martin Scorsese remake of Cape Fear, where he's sitting in a cinema in front of Nick Nolte and his family, puffing away on a cigar, wearing an even louder Hawaiian shirt, and he's laughing hysterically, and he ruins the film for the family that he's going to be attacking throughout the rest of the movie. Quint is watching Moby Dick, the Gregory Peck version, on the big screen in this deleted scene, and he is laughing and he's really whooping it up, and he's pissing everybody else off, and they're all leaving the cinema. That is completely wrong. That is against character. I know it seems on the face of it that, well, that's why, you know, because he's that kind of character. He's OTT. He's a seafaring guy. He's laughing at a film because, as if. And he's going to encounter, you know, a seaborne, a maritime monster of his own. Yeah, I understand that. But the character-wise, it doesn't work. He's not going to be the big Yahoo on the land that he actually accuses Hooper of being, a big Yahoo, you know. But out here on the sea, it's me. I'm in charge. This is my territory. That is where he's at home because he's on borrowed time. The entire thing I've been trying to put across is that he believes he should have died in the debacle and the shambles and the bloodthirsty, you know, mania of the USS Indianapolis sinking. He should have died then, and he's been living on his borrowed time ever since, and he's been trying to pursue the shark, that final confrontation to see, can he really. He was lucky to have survived first time, but now he's armed and now he knows what they're like, and now he's going out on purpose, deliberately, to go and confront his nightmare. Can he still do it? And I think he genuinely wants to die. He'll take them all out and he'll polish up all their jaws and, you know, you'll boil them all and, you know, all this kind of stuff. I actually wanted to I was going to mock up some fake jaws, put them, you know, over there somewhere. But hey, I had to make do with a baseball bat and a combat jacket and a Amity Gazette. Anyway, folks, I don't know. I hope you enjoyed that because it's a really, really tremendous sequence in a film which is a masterpiece. I'm playing John Williams' track from that moment, that sequence, on a loop, and it is just haunting. So, you know, comment below and let me know what your thoughts on Quint are. Has he got a death wish? Is he forever haunted? Has he never opened up before about what happened to him? Or is he truly the big, you know, loquacious braggadocio that he puts himself out to be, you know? He used to swim in with bow-legged women and all that, like. He is a genius. I do love him to bits. Anyway, folks, there might be more on Quint because I like him. I like inhabiting his character for a little bit. And I know some of you out there are going to be playing this back, and you'll be watching the film and go, "Oh, you got that line wrong. You missed that bit out. Oh, Kilt-Man, you missed that bit out." I probably did. But hey, I'm no actor. So, folks, in the meantime and in between time, stay safe. You may need a bigger boat, but, you know. Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for the sail back to Boston, and so nevermore we see you again. But in the meantime, I will see you all later. Yeah, made it myself. Pretty good stuff. It is.